February 3rd, 1944. To the office of General Abram Stokes, Washington, D.C., Pentagon. Abe, you crusty old son of a gun. It's been a long time, my friend. How's Washington since I've been away? You wouldn't believe the Sockdolager happening across the pond these days. Ike's got us ramping up for the big time, and I'm willing to bet 100 to 1 that you wish you could trade places with me. The Brits are a bit upstagey about who's in charge over here, unlike some of our more egocentric comrades. I find it completely understandable. They're all dead tired of this war. After being in London the past 6 months, it isn't hard to see why. I never thought I'd say it, but I think I might have experienced a few things worse than bully beef and turnip flour bread we were eating down in the trenches by the end of the Great War. The rations over here are, well, lacking, to say the least. Thankfully, we brought our own supplies. I can't blame the Brits for being less than thrilled about us flooding their shores and streets for some other reasons as well. We're a rowdy bunch, and I'm ashamed to say the segregation issues over here haven't done us any favors. You know how I feel about this. It's a despicable manifestation of how much farther we have to go before we live up to the precepts of our own Constitution. But racism is bred deep in a lot of our boys, not to mention their superiors. We've got fights and altercations breaking out weekly. The segregation ultimately became necessary just to keep the peace. I'm relieved Audrey Rose doesn't have to witness this firsthand. I'd be putting out fires left and right on account of her innate need for justice. Remember old Jeb, the stable hand from our time at Camp Meade? He used to take Audrey on horseback rides every Thursday. One time I overheard some of my soldiers giving him a hard time. I was about to send them hoofing for 10 miles or so. By the time I got over there, however, the tongue lashing my 10-year-old Audrey had given them seemed like punishment enough. You should have seen her there, eyes ablaze with her little fists at her waist, defending old Jeb. I'd never been so proud of my girl in all my life, even if I did have to keep an extra eye out for old Jeb from then on. Now that Audrey Rose is a grown woman, though with a sharper, much more sophisticated tongue in her head, it might be like throwing fuel on flames the way things are over here. Ruby, on the other hand, is as even-tempered as they come. She steadily takes it all in stride in her quiet way. She leads the way at the hospital, helping any injured soldier, no matter the color of his skin. I'm proud to say she gives equal care, compassion, and dignity across the board. I've always been grateful for Rosie's Cherokee heritage. It's put our girls ahead of their time where equality is concerned. But who knows? Maybe this war will take us a step closer to those truths we hold to be self-evident that old Jefferson, Adams, Franklin, and the rest were talking about. That's enough gum beating for me. So I hear you've been keeping an eye on Audrey Rose while I've been away. I'm obliged to you, Abe. It was harder on this old man's heart than I care to admit, leaving her behind like that. She's been by my side since her mama's death, not to mention since the beginning of this war. I've grown to depend on her. Now that she's married, I wish I had brought her along with me. Don't get me wrong. I wholeheartedly approve of her choice in a husband. I couldn't have chosen a better man for her myself. But it's a father's prerogative to mourn a little when his little daughter grows up and replaces him as the main man in her life. It doesn't help that Ruby's about to follow in her footsteps. This confounded war. I suppose you'll understand soon enough. I hear your Gwen is on her way to the altar in a few months. Don't worry, you'll survive. Giving her away will just feel like that time Kramer slipped during combat training and bayoneted you in the thigh. Only this time it will feel like he got you in the heart. In the meantime, I've got some hard words to say to you, old friend. Before I start busting your chops, though, don't think I've forgotten for a second that I owe you and Betty for all you did for my girls after Rosie passed. You especially were a godsend for the girls, having lost your own mama so young. You gave my Audrey someone to lean on in a way that I couldn't. I'll never forget it. But that brings me to my point. Audrey wrote to me about what you've got her tangled up in down at Oak Ridge. And if I hadn't been across the pond when I got her letter, I would have been in your office breathing fire before the ink on her letter was dry. You know I know my girls are as bright and as brave as they come, particularly Audrey Rose. And for the most part, I've tried to encourage and enable them as much as possible. But unless you can give me a 200% guarantee that no harm will come to her when she heads to New Mexico, you'd better find a replacement real fast. She doesn't know this, and neither of us are going to tell her. But there's a reason I made Audrey Rose my personal secretary. I knew that if I didn't, she'd join the OSS of her own accord and be off doing exactly what you're asking her to do right now. She's a full-blooded patriot if ever there was one. She was raised one. But have you fully considered the danger you're putting my daughter in? Have either of you considered what could happen to her if things go south? Have you further considered that Audrey Rose might have only agreed to do this for you on account of feeling obliged to you? I never told you this, but after you were there for her, all the long-distance phone calls, letters, little presents, and postcards you sent to cheer her up during the weeks and months following Rosie's death, that girl swore she'd walk through fire for you. I was worried she might have become a little infatuated the way girls that age tend to do with their heroes, but she was serious, Abe. My Audrey Rose is as loyal as they come. I believe she still feels a great debt of gratitude to you, but I'll never forgive you, no matter our history, if you use that loyalty to your advantage. I know how Grove stuck his neck out to vouch for Oppenheimer. Everyone does. As far as I can tell, he was right to do it. Oppenheimer truly is the only man for the job. But if you're using my girl in order to save your own necks, if something happens to her, and I discover it's all because you and Groves need to cover your backsides for the sake of your political reputation, I swear, Abe, I'll swim home if I have to and tear those political reputations to shreds. Now I've said my piece. I trust we understand each other. Give my love to Betty and the kids. Yours, Duke P. Drawlinger.